Welcome into a special edition of Buff Stampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com on the 24/7 Sports Network, here joined by a special guest today, Jeremy Bloom, who really needs no introduction here, but we're going to get into his history, share some stories, but really, we are here for a special purpose today, Jeremy. Before we get into that, though, I want to know how you're doing these days.
I'm doing great. I live in northern Boulder, and it's a pretty fun time to live in Boulder. It's a really fun time if you care about the football program. I mean, to think about every single game this year has been on national TV, and it doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon, is far departure from where we were just a couple years ago.
And you played a role in that. What's been your favorite part of just being able to see what Coach Prime has done and kind of building the CU program up?
I mean, all of it's been fun. I mean, I knew that if we could land Coach Prime, he would bring talent. I mean, he proved that at Jackson State of all places. He brought Travis Hunter to Jackson State, which I think was probably the single biggest coaching win of maybe all time as far as it relates to sort of recruiting talent. And he's obviously brought a lot of talent here to Boulder, but a lot of talent who hasn't played with one another a lot. And chemistry is so important in college football. Those shared experiences, the trust that you build over time for the teammate to the left of you, the teammate to the right of you. So I was sort of unsurprised when they lost to Nebraska in the fashion that they did because they just didn't have a lot of shared history. But you have seen every single game this year that team build more and more trust together and sort of march towards having one heartbeat instead of sort of a fractional experience as a team. So it's really fun. It's been a lot of fun. He's done a lot of great for the community and for the program.
And the Buffs are now up to tied for second in the Big 12 standings following their bye week. They're going to be headed down to Lubbock. And when they come back, they're going to play Utah and Boulder. And there's going to be a special guest in Folsom Field that day with you, Jeremy. That's kind of the main focus of this show is to talk about Riley, a CU fan that was a season ticket holder for, I believe, 27 years. But this is going to be his first time back at Folsom Field since 2004. And how you have connected with Riley is through your organization, which is really impressive. It is, an organization that's kind of like Make-A-Wish, but it's more for senior citizens that are out there that have a wish to fulfill. Talk a little bit about your foundation and kind of how things came together with Riley.
Yeah, the foundation's name is Wish of a Lifetime, and we grant wishes to primarily 80, 90, and 100-year-old people. So we just get to meet some of the most incredible human beings that you could ever imagine. And this generation that we get to work with is incredibly selfless. Like the hardest thing to do is to ask them what their wish is because they always want to wish for other people or for their family. So it's really humbling to be able to sort of be around them. We're granting about one wish per day. So there's a lot of great stories and experiences. But of course, Riley's wish hits a heartstring for me because we have a shared love for the CU Buffs. And he's been a season ticket holder basically since he was 27 years of age. But, he's in later stages of life and has some health challenges. And he hasn't been able to get back to Folsom Field in 2 decades, so over 20 years. And so he wrote to Wish of a Lifetime and said, "Hey, with all the excitement going on in Boulder, I'm like losing my mind not being able to be there. And would you be able to help me sort of get there?" And so the staff has done an amazing job, and CU is going to roll out the whole red carpet for him, and Coach Prime's going to be involved, and Rick George is going to be involved, and he's going to be like the grand marshal of the Stampede the night before. And so we got a lot of really special things planned for Riley, and I'm excited to meet him. And he remembers when I played, and he even remembers some of the plays I played in, which is unbelievable. It was so long ago. But he's just he's a super fan. It's like you got Peggy at the top of that bus, and you got Riley on it as well. If you follow Peggy, one of the twins who's been the cheerleaders, who's just now, I think she's sort of world famous. In fact, Adam, Peggy called me this morning.
Oh,
Hadn't
wow.
heard, hadn't heard from her in months, and I'm like, "Peggy, what's going on, superstar?" And she said, "Well, I'm turning 100 and the university's having a party for me on the 17th. Do you think you could make it?" I said, "Of course I could be there." But imagine calling people saying, "Hey, it's my 100th birthday. You want to come?" So anyway, like just great fans between Riley and Peggy, and just can't wait to get Riley back to Folsom Field.
What were your main sources of inspiration as you decided to create this nonprofit, Wish of a Lifetime? What kind of led you in this path?
It was really a collision of two things. The first thing was my love and passion for my grandparents. I had unbelievable grandparents. In fact, my grandfather flew 17 missions over Berlin in World War II on a B-17 bomber and as a gunner. And he was my first ski instructor, Adam, and he used to throw these little miniature-sized candy bars down the mountain, the Bunny Hill slope. And if I could figure out how to ski, I could eat them. So like I love skiing from a very young age. And he was just the man. I loved him, and I'm actually named after him. His name was Jerry. I'm Jeremy. So we shared a really special bond. And then my mom's mother, my grandmother, lived with us for the first 19 years of my life. So I could just go downstairs and hang with my gram, and watch soap operas or whatever she was doing. Like didn't matter. I loved her and really appreciated her. And then the sort of second factor was when I made the U.S. ski team at 17, I started traveling the world, and I just saw all these other cultures treat the elderly so differently. Like in Japan, with the most amazing amount of reverence and respect, they bow to them, they help them, they make sure they're taken care of. They don't think of them as like, people who have, their time's up and their dreams don't matter. And so, after my time was up in the NFL, I started a nonprofit, and I said I want to do something for this generation, and came up with the idea to grant their wishes, and it's just been the most meaningful and rewarding and fun journey of my life.
When your grandfather Jerry was teaching you how to ski and throwing candy bars down the hill, what was he throwing down there? We're just on the other end of Halloween. What was your motivation back in those days?
These little miniature sized Twix and Snicker bars. That was his. I mean, this guy was like a junk food junkie, and my mom would never let us eat candy in the house. So you can imagine how much I just love to ski from such a young age. And he's like, don't tell your mother I'm giving you candy." I'm like, "No way, not a chance, not going to tell her." So yeah, we shared a lot of really amazing moments in life. In fact, he even flew to Salt Lake to watch me compete in my first Olympics and was down there at the grandstand. And so yeah, I just had not an uncommon bond. I think a lot of people love their grandparents for a variety of reasons. And so, but I was pretty lucky with mine.
You said that you're fulfilling about a wish a day, which is pretty incredible. You're under the umbrella of AARP. They've recognized exactly how important what you are doing is. And you talked about it. You're handing out a lot of wishes. Have there been some other wishes that you've granted that have stood out to you?
Yeah, AARP has been such a wonderful partner. We joined forces in 2019, and we're just scaling our mission across the country, and they've been such a great partner and advocate for us. There's so many wishes that stand out, but I'll share a couple with you. We reconnect a lot of people in life, as you can imagine. But one was pretty unique because Ruby, Ruth, and Rose, three sisters, hadn't seen each other in 15 years. And Ruth, the youngest, reached out to us on Wish of a Lifetime and said, "Hey, I haven't seen my sisters in 3 years. We all live in separate states. Haven't seen each other in 15 years, and we live in separate states. Could you help us reconnect?" And the youngest was 102 years of age, and the oldest was 109. So it was a reconnection of three centenarian sisters. And I was in the room that day, and they were talking about growing up in a farm in Kansas, at a time like nobody would sort of recognize, no cars and those types of things. And so that was pretty special, and unique. And Bill Tiller also stands out. Bill Tiller had end of life emphysema. He always dreamed of traveling, but didn't get to do that in his life. And he wished for a postcard from another state. And we put that up on our social medias, said, "Hey, here's Bill, and he'd love to know what it's like to live where you live and visit where you live." And before you know it, we had thousands and thousands of postcards being sent to Bill from all over the world, like 26 different countries. And we did a story on that on our website that you can watch, Bill Tiller on wishofalifetime.org. One of my most favorite wishes, my most favorite people, and my most favorite stories of all time.
That's awesome. I would love to go through your resume for the folks that haven't don't know everything that you've accomplished in your life, but I think it was Kirk Cignetti, the Indiana's head coach, that said, Google me. So we're not going to go down the list. It's a lot to digest in terms of what you've accomplished, Jeremy, and this foundation's fantastic. I'm just curious, and this is a kind of a loaded question here, but when you reflect on your life to this point, what are you most proud of?
Not unlike probably most people listening that have kids, most proud of being a dad, without a question. Nothing's even close. And so I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and it's been the most incredible journey of my life to be a dad to two incredible kids. Nothing really can compare to that. But sort of professionally, yeah, I would put Wish of a Lifetime at the top. I mean, making a small difference in somebody else's life. Anybody who's done that, and there's a lot of people that volunteer and do that. I think most people will tell you that it's a satisfaction that you can't get through any individual achievement. And so I would put that at the top. Beyond that, I mean, being drafted into the National Football League as a 5'9", 170-pound kid, like that wasn't obvious that my path was going to lead me to the Olympics and that was or to the NFL, and that was pretty special. And then of course competing in 2 Olympics for Team USA. As a freestyle skier, that badge of honor of wearing that American flag and walking opening ceremonies and competing for your country was a pretty special thing as well.
That's awesome. And when you go back to Folsom Field with Riley and you're standing down there pregame, are there any plays that are going to kind of flood back into your memory when you think about your time playing football for the Buffs?
Funny, Adam. Every year I'm like, okay, I probably won't have the memories, because at some point I'm like, I'm not gonna have emotional memories, but like every time I step onto Folsom Field, I'm right back to freshman year, sophomore year, and just feeling that feeling of what it's like to get ready to go play in front of 60,000 people on national TV. And back when I was playing, we were pretty darn good. We were competing for conference championships every single year. We top 25 team and those types of things. And so it was just an incredible chapter of my life. And grateful to have had a lot of success on that football field. We won a lot of games, and you're so young at that point. Those memories are really deeply entrenched. So yeah, absolutely. Every time I step onto that field, I'm sort of transplanted right back to where I was when I was playing there. It was pretty cool.
It will veer it back to the positive, but now in this NIL era, I would imagine that's something that's kind of hard to sit with based on what you had to kind of battle during your college career, right? And or is there some sense of feeling like, okay, things are starting to turn in favor of the student athlete?
No, I mean just the prevailing feeling of NIL is being grateful. I'm super grateful to have played a role and a part in where we are today. If you remember when I sued the NCAA, the big win that came out of that lawsuit was the judge. He was the first judge to ever say that student athletes were in fact third-party beneficiaries of the NCAA contract, which gave student athletes right, which led to the Alston case and the Ed O'Bannon case, the EA Sports case that pointed to the fact that student athletes had rights. So grateful to be part of it. I always knew that I would be on the right side of history, but the timing wasn't right for me to be able to be a professional skier and an amateur football player. And so I ultimately lost out on being able to play my junior and senior year when the NCAA told me I couldn't do both. And, that was a hard pill to swallow, but, it all worked out the way it was supposed to. And I learned a lot along the way. And it was fun to be part of this nearly 2-decade battle for student athlete rights and to watch it cave at the Supreme Court, by what wasn't a unanimous decision. And I think we all know that the Supreme Court very rarely judges anything unanimously with the political divisions in this country. So yeah, it was very gratifying. Obviously, a lot needs to be cleaned up. Unfortunately, the NCAA spent no time, no energy, no money thinking about when this happens, what should we do? And they spent all the time, energy, and money fighting to keep amateurism in the courts. And so, yeah, it's a bit of the wild, wild west right now.
Do you have a favorite player on this year's CU Buffs
Oh
team?
yeah, I mean Travis Hunter, like he's
Yeah.
a once in a generational talent. I don't even think it's a conversation who should win the Heisman Trophy. And I get there's a good running back at Boise State and some other good players, but these are one-dimensional players. Nobody has ever done what he has done in Division I college football on both sides of the ball. And not only that, he's humble. He's got a ton of humility and he stays at home and he doesn't get in trouble and he's got his priorities right. His compass feels like it points true north. And he's just seems like such a wonderful teammate And I would put second in that position is Shador Sanders. I really like him. I like the way he approaches the game. And when given time, I think he's the most dangerous quarterback in college football. Of course, giving him time has been the biggest challenge of the team, but the offensive line seems to be coming together and, giving him more time to throw the football. And I loved what he said at the last press conference about the Heisman. He's like, give it to Travis. Nothing would make me happier than to see Travis with the Heisman Trophy. And that's when okay, this team's got some great leaders and good chemistry and some humility in that locker room.
I was just in your old hood. Loveland High School has a Colorado commit, Zane D'Souza, that is committed to them in the 2025 class. I used to live for a couple years with my wife and family there in Loveland, and it's kind of cool to just kind of see Colorado be able to land a guy from Loveland High School. Who are some of the other top alumni out of that program,
Josh
football wise?
Davis. Josh Davis was an incredible running back, played at Nebraska. Ross Pilkington was a great receiver, played at Nebraska. Jeff Byers was a great left tackle or left guard, played at USC
That's
and,
right. Yep.
and played, some time in the NFL. So, look, Loveland High School, it's sort of like a small town, small school to some extent, but we've always been competitive. I mean, we won back-to-back state championships in track, against all the Denver schools. In my senior year, we were state champions as well. So, never underestimate the power of Loveland High School. I would call them the Indians, but they're no longer the Indians, and I don't even remember what the new
Red
sort of
Wolves.
the
Red
Red
Wolves.
Wolves
Yep.
just
Yep.
doesn't roll off my tongue, man. Like, I think of them as, but never underestimate Loveland High School.
Lastly, here, Jeremy, how can Buffs fans that are touched by this interview and what you're doing with your foundation, is there any way they can help you with your efforts going forward?
Oh, definitely. Wishofalifetime.org. And there's so many different ways to get involved. You can be a volunteer and be on boots on the grounds at one of our wishes, helping to make that wish come true. On Valentine's Day, we mobilize 25,000 volunteers across the country to deliver over 250,000 roses. We would love for you to join us there. And of course, if you feel like donating to the mission, we got a bank account too, because these things cost money. So plenty of ways to get involved, wishofalifetime.org. And there's a lot of wishes on the website as well to watch some of these incredible people get their lifelong wishes and dreams come true.
Anything else going on in your life these days?
I mean, plenty of other things, but right. I think as most relevant to this conversation, it's the CU Buffs 6-2. They're already going bowling, but which bowl can they get to? And they got some help last weekend from some other Big 12 teams. So hey, maybe a Big 12 championship is potentially in the cards, which would be something else they could land themselves in the college football playoff, which would just be absolutely mind blowing. But I mean, they are playing well, and you can see the chemistry coming together. So. I wouldn't underestimate the powers that be and the speed and the tenacity and the grit at the university. So go Buffs.
Yeah, no question, Jeremy. Thanks so much for taking the time out. I think everybody that played at CU has supported CU, or even in my case, covered CU. We all deserve this season, and it's been great to see Colorado get back on the national stage. And we're excited for Riley to get back in Folsom Field.
Right.
And
So Riley.
now the Buffs better win on against Utah now.
Utah's a tough
There's
one.
some added pressure there. So
Yeah, Utah's always tough, but they got to do it
they
for
are.
Riley, just like they're doing it for Peggy. Got to get him in the conversation.
I appreciate you, Jeremy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to see you, Adam.
And appreciate everybody out there for joining in.